Hello and welcome to the In the Pen podcast, a podcast about relievers, part of the Pitcher List Podcast Network. My name is Jake Crumpler, and as always, I'm joined by Pitcher List's bullpen expert, Rick Graham. Rick, we are in a crazy week around the world, crazy week in baseball after the Rafael Devers trade. Obviously, this is a bullpen podcast, but we have to start it off with something off topic, and I'm going to go straight into candy, and we're going to talk about if you like old person candy, because I get made fun of all the time. I love black licorice. I like coffee candy. I like all these candies that everybody always makes fun of me and calls me an old man. And I'm like, no. These are good candies. What's wrong with them? Do you like black licorice? Do you like any weird candies that people give you trouble about?
No, definitely not a black licorice fan. That's a bold take of yours. I don't know about like any weird candies, but like old people candies, like in general, outside of black licorice, like the Werther's originals, that's a classic. Those are solid.
So good.
My dad used to get it. My grandmother used to get it, so my dad ended up doing it, because she did it. You would get like those candies from like the grocery store back in the day with like the little peppermint candies and like the butterscotches and kind of the old, and like he would always just have them in the back of his car. So like when I was a kid, I would have a good amount of those. So I'm into old people candy. Just black licorice though, I can't. I'm out on that.
I'm a huge black licorice fan. Do you like are you dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
It depends. I guess I'm more of a dark chocolate person now. Especially, I know it's weird. Like I like a dark chocolate and mint, or a dark chocolate.
Yeah, okay. I was about to ask you if you like York peppermint patties, because that's another old person candy that I get a lot of flack for.
My mom's a huge fan. I love junior mints. That's what I was gonna say.
Yes.
So like that's kind of a thing that you don't really see. I see them on sale all the time because like no one wants them. I'm like, I'll get 2 for $1, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great movie theater snack for me.
They're so good. Yeah. Do you like what about like a hot tamale?
Not a huge fan. I'm not a big hot, spicy, cinnamony type, especially candy. But I get the appeal. I see it.
Yeah. I love those. I love Good and Plenty are like one of the best candies of all time. I sound very old, but I think it runs in the family. My grandpa likes them, my mom likes them, so it's I'm continuing the lineage of black licorice lovers, because at some point you get all these young people, they think black licorice is only for old people, and then they never eat it ever again. But hey, I think it's one of those like cilantro things. I feel like some people just can't eat it at all.
Yeah. I'm not a big cilantro fan, but I can
taste
I'm
like
okay
soap?
with it. No, it doesn't taste like soap.
People say it tastes like soap.
I know that is a weird. That's like a defect or something, like a genetic thing. Where but I have heard that. But black licorice, that's like one of the things I just can't get into.
What about like do you like a red vine or a Twizzler more?
Sure, yeah, a Twizzler, red vine. I'll prefer Twizzler.
Okay, me too. And I think that's an unpopular opinion as well.
Really? Twizzler? I don't know. It might be. I might be.
Maybe it's a East Coast, West Coast thing, but red vines are way more popular, I think, amongst the general public. But to me, I really like candies that make it taste like you're eating, plastic, something like really artificial. When you're like you're a kid and you have toys and you're like chewing on them, you're like, I wish I could eat this. That's what a Twizzler is. You can eat it. You're allowed to eat it.
Right.
But the red vines taste more artificial. I don't like them as much as a Twizzler.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, that's all the old person candy talk we've got for today. We can dive right into our baseball talk of the day. This is episode 125 of In the Pen. Today we'll be going over the news, injuries, and transactions from the past week. Then we'll head into our 3-up-3 down section and discuss the closers rising and falling on Rick's closer ranks. And then we'll close things out with our main topic as we discuss some early trade deadline forecasting, as the blockbuster deal of Rafael Devers has inspired us to get an early look at who might be traded at this year's deadline and who might be traded leading up to it. But let's start it off with the news and notes. As always, the first bit of news we have involves Justin Martinez, who was confirmed to be undergoing season-ending Tommy John surgery. Last podcast, we discussed the second opinion that he was receiving on his elbow, but it was confirmed the next day that he will undergo Tommy John surgery and miss the remainder of the season. That's really good for Shelby Miller and might be good for AJ Puck, but Puck is currently dealing with his own injury. He's been on the 60-day IL and paused his throwing program after experiencing elbow discomfort and is visiting Dr. Neil Elatrache today. What do you think it is? Do you think it's Elatrache or Elatrache? I've always read it Atrache, but I know that it feels wrong.
Elatrache. I feel like it's Elatrache. I do have. It looks like it is Atrache. So Neil Atrache.
Okay.
My dog is banging on the crate right now.
Nice. But yeah, not great news for AJ Puck pausing his throwing program. You never want to, like I'm sure Neil is a great guy, but you never want to be visiting him, especially as a pitcher. Because if you're visiting Neil Atrache as a pitcher, it usually means you're likely headed for some sort of surgery or some extended absence. And so that seems to be the case with AJ Puck. He's meeting him today. So like as we speak, Puck could be talking to our boy Neil and determining whether or not he's going to need surgery, but fingers crossed that's not the case. However, with his throwing program pause, that probably means Puck is out for at least another month, maybe two. We're not going to see him until the playoffs, in my opinion.
I mean, if he's seeing Dr. Neil, it almost always ends in Tommy John. So losing Justin Martinez and AJ Puck in the same year is just it's a lot for this Diamondbacks bullpen to try to come back from. And Shelby Miller is their best option right now, and he's already starting to show cracks. So we should see, we'll talk about the Diamondbacks and their situation and who they could trade a little bit later. But yeah, tough. I don't see how this Diamondbacks bullpen is going to survive both these injuries.
Yeah, pretty rough to have the top two relievers in your bullpen knocked out for basically the whole year. And not just like any top two relievers. These are two of the best relievers in baseball. So yeah, very unfortunate, not only for fantasy managers and Diamondbacks fans, but for guys like us who like talking about good relief pitchers. We're sort of prevented from doing that because these guys aren't pitching this year. Very unfortunate. Yeah. Next, we'll discuss Luke Weaver, who could be activated from the 15-day IL on Friday, according to manager Aaron Boone. He should return to being the Yankees closer immediately when he is activated. I mean, Devin Williams didn't really do much during the past couple of weeks to, push Weaver for that job when he returns.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. It's crazy that Weaver's coming back this quickly, to be honest. We were supposed to have, 4 to 6 weeks. So this is, 2.5 weeks. I mean, Devin Williams has been great since Weaver's been gone. I think eventually Williams was going to take over anyway. So I imagine that Devin Williams sticks in this role and they at least can use Weaver, more openly earlier in games where they have a tough, situation, tough part of the lineup coming up in the 7th. They can go to Weaver there. But yeah, I think Williams is, I don't want to say safe in the closer role, but I think I would be confident if I'm rostering him. I don't think Weaver's going to be a factor, at least right away. Just the way Devin Williams has been pitching lately. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. It's a small sample. It's only, I think, 5 or 6 appearances from Williams, but all the vibes I sort of got before the injury was that, they sort of preferred Luke Weaver. Maybe there is a slight chance that I've just watched too many TikToks, and a couple of them had guys talking about how great Luke Weaver was.
If you listen to any Yankee fan, they're going to be like, Luke Weaver, man. Like, it's going to be probably Luke Weaver. It was. Yeah. And it's just how they look at the, they just look at the ERA and what Luke Weaver's done the last 2 years. And that's all they are looking at. And that, I get that that points to Luke Weaver being the best option there. But I mean, it's not even just since Weaver got hurt. Like, Devin Williams was pitching well pretty much since he got removed from the closer role. He's tweaked some things. He's figured out how to not tip his changeup anymore. And now he's getting the type of strikeout rate that we've seen from him in the past, and the swing and miss is back. So this is the Devin Williams that they traded for in the offseason that was going to be their closer anyway. So I feel I feel like that's where Boone. I feel like Boone's going to lean towards Williams, but I'm sure both will get saves. And I mean, yeah, if Weaver, I know Weaver's available in a couple of my leagues. It's probably worth, a speculative ad, just to see how things play out. But yeah, I mean, I think Williams is gonna keep that role for now.
Yeah, I think they definitely both need to be rostered in the majority of standard leagues while they're both healthy and pitching, because we don't know really what the roles are going to be. I think you're convincing me that Williams has a likelier chance of becoming the closer, maintaining the closer role when Weaver returns. But there is a part of me that could see that falling apart, and both of them either factoring into it or Weaver pushing Williams out of it. But definitely a situation to monitor as we move forward as Weaver returns to the Bronx. Now we'll discuss our injuries, and we only have one notable one, as Graham Ashcraft was placed on the 15-day IL with a groin strain. Luis May was recalled from the minors in a corresponding move, but pretty unfortunate because Ashcraft was having a pretty solid season. 4.19 ERA isn't spectacular, but he has had 9 holds for the Reds, and that ERA is honestly a lot better than he performed as a starter. So he will be out, which should push guys like Scott Barlow and Ian Jabot into more high leverage situations. And maybe Luis May will continue to factor into those as well. He was pretty solid prior to his demotion earlier this year, pitching to a 4.15 ERA with a 26% strikeout rate, though he just had 2 holds as he is very young and hasn't been entrusted with high leverage situations. Do you think with Ashcraft out, May might be entrusted with bigger situations?
Yeah, I think there's more opportunity here. It's more open for that secondary setup man behind Pagan and Santillan. Scott Barlow or Taylor Rogers probably have a little bit of an edge, being the veterans. And Barlow's been pitching really well, especially lately. But yeah, May looked really good in his first, about 10 or so outings, and kind of had a couple of hiccups and then got sent down. But there's still, huge ceiling there for May. I'm not really sure what he's done since he went to AAA. But there's definitely a chance for him to move into a high leverage role. If the Reds are serious about, being in the playoffs this year, they're going to definitely need to make a move to that bullpen though, because it's a little dicey after Pagan and maybe even Santillan, depending on how you read into his season.
Yeah. Looks like May made 8 appearances at AAA after being demoted at the beginning of June and tossed 7 1/3 innings, allowing 1 earned run, walking 3, and striking out 7.
All right. So
pretty solid.
That's kind of what he is. I mean, he's not a big strikeout guy, but he's like a strikeout per inning guy who should get ground balls and have pretty good ratios. So yeah, someone to keep an eye on in deeper holds leagues, or especially dynasty leagues where you have holds that count.
All right, that's Luis May recalled from the minors, and a corresponding move to Graham Ashcraft landing on the IL. Now we'll discuss some transactions and start with FORREST WHITLEY, who last episode I promised we probably wouldn't be talking about him again, but then Rick had to go and say, oh, what if he gets traded to the Rays? And that is exactly what happened. FORREST WHITLEY got DFA'd by the Astros. Rick said, hey, Rays should pick him up. The next day, the Rays traded for him and maintained his standing on the active roster as well. So he is currently being deployed in relief by the Rays, and he did pitch yesterday and 2 days before that too. So that's pretty cool. I mean, what changes are you going to be looking to see from Whitley with the Rays that would get you interested in fantasy? Is it just health?
I mean, health's a good start. Command has been another issue with them, and that probably comes from just being able to pitch frequently and being available, getting reps and innings. So far, I mean, he hasn't allowed a hit, no walks, but no strikeouts also with Tampa in 2 innings. But yeah, we'll see. That it's gonna be interesting because they have to kind of work with him on the fly. He's got no options left, so they can't send him to Durham and then work on stuff with him there. So it's going to be fun though to see what they, if he sticks with them for the remainder of the season, maybe gets an off season with them. Crazier things have happened. I wouldn't even rule out him returning to the rotation at some point next year, but yeah, It's a fun project for the Rays for sure. I mean, dude's uber talented and just needs to stay healthy and throw strikes.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I did discuss last week about how maybe the Rays wouldn't be a good fit because of how they sort of push their pitchers to extend the limits of their arm, ultimately resulting in a lot of surgeries and injuries. But hopefully, maybe they have a specialized game plan for Whitley that involves focusing on keeping him healthy. Next, we've got Freddie TARNOK, who was selected from the minors by the Marlins. He then recorded a save the first day that he was up. Calvin Fauché had pitched in a couple days in a row, but then they just optioned him back to the minors the next day. So it was somewhat confusing. I didn't really know what the goal here was with TARNOK. He was a former top prospect. I'm pretty sure of the Braves acquired in, I don't know, the Sean Murphy, Matt Olson deal, one of those. Either way, he did not pan out in Oakland and has found his way to the Marlins. And they pushed him to the bullpen and he got a save, but they don't seem to want to roll with him.
Yeah, probably. I mean, someone to keep an eye on down the stretch after the deadline if the Marlins sell off some of their bullpen pieces. But yeah, interesting that you come up and get a save, and it wasn't even a extra inning save. It was a ninth. It was in the ninth inning, so it was like innings kind of lined up for him to get that. Interesting for sure, but I don't know too much about TARNOK, but not someone to worry too much about in deeper leagues.
Definitely. All right. Next, we've got ZACK AGNOS, who is optioned to the minors by the Rockies. If you have been listening all year, or at least paying attention to the Rockies, AGNOS made his debut this year. He is a rookie and was almost immediately thrust into the closer role in Colorado, where he found success early on, but it was clearly being supported by a lot of fortunate luck. That started to go the opposite way, and now AGNOS will go the opposite way of the majors and head back to AAA, where he'll try to figure out his stuff. But honestly, I wasn't really fooled by this one. I never really thought AGNOS was going to hold on to this role for a long time. He didn't really have the chops or the underlying metrics to suggest, hey, this guy's gonna, outperform Coors and like not get destroyed by the elevation there. But looks like Seth Halverson's going to be the lockdown closer in Colorado moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, AGNOS, if you're not going to miss bats and Coors, it's just you're not going to have a good time. It's your only way to survive, really.
Yeah.
And he was just really bad at missing bats. Halverson had looked good the past two outings, and then today he allowed walk-offs to. It's James Wood, so I mean he's a really good hitter, but every time I get like kind of fooled or sucked back into Seth Halverson like being a thing. And this is on the road. It's not like we can't blame Coors for today's outing, but I was kind of surprised he did pitch because I think this was his third time in 4 days. So I don't know. I like Halverson the best in Colorado, but it's still not someone I'm chasing outside of the deepest of leagues.
Yeah. If it was somebody like Jake Bird, do you think you would be more interested, or are you not really convinced by what he's doing this year?
I think what Bird's doing is legit. It is interesting that they've not even come close to like putting him in that. Say they've used AGNOS, Kinley, Halverson, but Jake Bird's by far been their best reliever, and he's strictly working on like the 6th, 7th inning. That's probably for the best. That's probably where Bird belongs. I do wonder. I mean, the Rockies should trade him. I feel like, right, this is Jake Bird having a career year. Let's sell high. So maybe they don't want to like tarnish any of those ratios or something. But I feel like Bird's been their best reliever. But it doesn't seem like he's ever going to get a chance to close out games. Yeah,
I would think making him the closer would only increase his trade value, but it's the Rockies, so they probably don't want to trade anybody that's good, because that's a common theme from them. They've never traded anybody when they
traded
should.
Nick Mears, but I don't know. They probably could have.
They shouldn't have traded Nick Mears.
It was a little bit early. Yeah, that's true. I know, right?
It's like it was I can't remember who it was. It was probably like no, I can't remember. I was gonna try to come up with somebody who was not. I think it was Trevor Story. He was like not traded at the deadline and then just ended up signing. Maybe it was somebody else. Oh well. Either way, the Rockies have not made smart decisions when Daniel Bard is the clear one, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, next we've got Eric Swanson, who was designated for assignment by the Blue Jays. Somewhat surprising as he was pretty good a couple years ago, but maybe it was just that 1 year that sort of stands out a little bit as an outlier. But Swanson's had some injury troubles over the past, over his time with the Blue Jays, so that's been unfortunate. Justin Brule and Paxton Schultz were added to the active roster and corresponding moves.
I mean, it's crazy. And, Teoscar Hernandez is in LA now, but that Swanson was like the main return for that's in the Teoscar Hernandez trade, and seeing things haven't really worked out for him. He's been hurt like all of last year, this year. There still might be something left there. I'm sure our team will take a look. But yeah, it's tough to see him kind of fall off the radar this badly.
Yeah, last year was rough. 2023 was cool though. So the Blue Jays did get 1 year of production out of him. He failed to eclipse one F4, but nonetheless, the past couple of years have been really bad for him. So like you said, hopefully he can land somewhere where they can figure things out for him. This guy seems like an ideal like Dodgers guy, but yeah, I don't know. Don't want to put that into existence, even though I already did. All right, next we've got DEDNIEL NUNEZ, who was recalled from the minors to replace the injured Max Kranick, who was placed on the 15-day IL after being recalled from the minors just a few days prior. DEDNIEL NUNEZ, though, has shown flashes in the past of being really elite. He has not had that opportunity this year, pitching in just 3 2/3 innings in the majors while struggling with his command in the minors, talking a 12.4% walk rate to go with just a 24% strike rate. So hopefully NUNEZ can reclaim what he had in 2024 when he was a beast, but we haven't seen that this year, and I'm not sure it's going to happen in the majors.
Yeah, a couple of these like one-hit wonders from last year of NUNEZ and Edwin Uceta. You gotta wonder, is it just a 1-year fluke type thing, or what's going on? The ball. I mean, the ball is better for pitchers this year, but NUNEZ just can't throw strikes again. He was hurt leading up to the year too. I'm not like totally out on him, but not expecting him to replicate what he did last season. And at least for the Mets, like they're pretty solid, and they're back end right now. Diaz and Garrett, Buto as well has been pretty solid. So I don't think that they're gonna need NUNEZ, but it would be definitely a boost for them because he is that swing and miss guy that they don't really have outside of Edwin Diaz right now. So
yeah,
we'll see if he can start getting more strikeouts and limiting the walks.
Yeah, I'd love to see him be good again because he was really fun to watch last year. That's DEDNIEL NUNEZ returning to the Mets active roster. And our last transaction involves JAYVIEN Sandridge, who was selected from the minors by the Yankees. He's a 26-year-old southpaw and was a 32nd round pick back in 2018. Sandridge has a 60 grade fastball and slider, according to Fangraphs. He's displayed pretty decent strikeout stuff throughout his minor league career, but the walks have always been an issue. This year at A-ball, high A, and triple A, Sandridge has pitched to a 3 ERA across 12 innings with a 1.17 whip and a 39% strikeout rate against a 12% walk rate. So pretty solid 27% strikeout minus walk rate there from Sandridge, heading to the majors to pitch for the Yankees. He is likely to make his debut this weekend, but I don't know. Do you have anything on Sandridge? I was somewhat interested by his numbers in minors.
I don't know if he's going to make his debut this weekend because I think he's going to get sent down for Weaver returning tomorrow. That's what I heard. But yeah, hopefully maybe he doesn't get DFA'd. Maybe he sticks around and comes back up at some other point, or maybe there's another injury on the Yankees bullpen we don't really know about. But yeah, the interesting numbers, especially from lefty, that type of strikeout rate. And yeah, I mean, the Yankees bullpen could use a second lefty. So yeah, that's a name to keep an eye on deeper holds leagues for sure.
All right, that's JAYVIEN Sandridge, and that will wrap up our news and notes section. Next, we'll head into the 3 up, 3 down section. But first, we're going to take a quick break here on In the Pen. And we're back. Jake Crumpler here with Rick Graham on In the Pen discussing relievers. We're now heading into our middle section as we discuss the closers rising and falling on Rick's closer ranks. We've dubbed this section the 3 up, 3 down section. Let's start with our risers and begin with a pretty obvious one in Shelby Miller, who is expected to receive the lion's share of save opportunities in the desert, with Justin Martinez undergoing Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, it's tough because this last outing was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But I don't see any competition for him in Arizona, especially now that AJ Puck's likely out for the remainder of the year. There's one or two ways. Either Miller should at least have the closer role until through the trade deadline. If Arizona does deal some pieces, Miller would definitely be one of them. But at least we have a month and 5 or 6 weeks here until Miller might get traded. So that's 5 or 6 weeks of saves for Shelby Miller. And there's a lot of situations right now that are a little more up in the air. There's more competition in these other teams and whatnot. So Miller for the next 5 or 6 weeks seems pretty safe. I mean, Ryan Thompson might factor in. Kevin Ginkel came back up, but he hasn't been good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any other options in Arizona to take saves away from Shelby Miller.
It feels like Juan Murillo is
That would be fun.
sort of in the conversation of closer of the future,
Yeah.
but this year seems a bit early.
I mean, next year, if Puck also does get Tommy John, I mean, what do they do next year? That's a big. I mean, so things could open up for a guy like Murillo, or maybe I mean, they're not out of the playoff race. Maybe they go out and get a guy of some term on their contract. They they got Puck last year, so.
Mm-hmm.
But until they go out and get a guy, they put someone like Murillo in the closer role. I feel like Shelby Miller, and Miller's pitched great outside of the last couple of weeks have been a little bit more inconsistent, but he's still earned that closer role for how well he's pitched all year.
Yeah, even after serving up a pair of home runs that led to a walk-off against the Diamondbacks on Tuesday, he's got a 2.17 ERA and a 25% strikeout rate. Numbers that eclipse everybody else's in the bullpen. Nobody's striking out more batters or has a lower ERA than him, unless you count Kyle Backus and his 0 ERA across 4 innings. But Shelby Miller, clearly the most dominant reliever in the desert as things stand, with the 2 top options to start the season likely out for the rest of the year. Still unsure on AJ Puck, but Justin Martinez confirmed Tommy John surgery. So Shelby Miller rising up the ranks. Our next riser is Trevor McGill, who continues to lock down the closer role in Milwaukee. I'm pretty sure last week he was a faller.
It was either last week or the week before. Because I mean, we talked about how he hasn't been replicating the dominance that we've seen from him in the past, and you know what, that is true. And I don't think he's going to be like a 30+ strikeout guy all of a sudden, but he's been so steady that I don't see him, even with Abner Uribe pitching as well as he's pitched behind him, I don't see a reason for McGill to lose his job. And that's right now, I feel like that's like an automatic top 15 to 20 closer, because things are a little bit dicier now, especially as we get closer to the deadline. So McGill's safe in my mind, as long as he's healthy. That's the thing with him, and we can't really control health. So he's healthy now. Looked good again today, getting a save against the Cubs. So yeah, I think McGill's back to where I had him at the beginning of the season, as like a 12 to 13 range closer.
Yeah, I feel like if we just took Abner Uribe out of that bullpen, we'd have zero concerns about McGill. That's the only thing that's making us say, oh, well, he could lose his job because Uribe is just so good. But I mean, the Brewers they're not in any rush to do that, right? Because they have 2 great relievers like that. They can use one of them as a high leverage and one of them as a closer.
The Brewers don't want to be paying Uribe closer money yet either. So
that is, that is a good point.
They're going to wait. Maybe next year Uribe gets a chance, or if again, McGill could get hurt, or maybe there's a surprise trade. I doubt it, but Milwaukee, I mean, even Nick Mears, I wouldn't think Mears has a good, 2.15 ERA, but I don't see him as a threat to the closer role like Uribe could be.
Yeah. All right. Well, our last riser is Ryan Helsley, and he has been very solid this year. I'm guessing this is sort of along the same lines of Trevor McGill, where you're just starting to feel like, okay, he's solid.
That's kind of all 3 of these guys. It's basically just roles. Security, I guess, job security. HELSLEY, he had struggled recently. He looked good today. Bounced back, got a save, so I'm a little bit more comfortable there, as well as Phil Maton's been pitching. And again, this is another team. They're more likely to be sellers than Milwaukee, obviously, but and if they are sellers, HELSLEY's almost certain to go.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep an eye on. But I don't know. It's tough. This team's been playing above water most of the year. I don't feel like they should sell, at least right now. A lot can change in the next month, but they're just a game and a half out of the playoffs, I think. So as of now, I feel like St. Louis, that they stand pat, maybe add a piece or two, nothing crazy, but they should at least try to make a run with what they have. And maybe, I mean, the only thing is that, we saw how the reliever market was last year, and some of those guys were getting really ridiculous returns. So if HELSLEY is the best reliever on the market, maybe it's too tough, too hard for them to pass up trading him. But I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic that HELSLEY sticks around as their closer throughout the rest of the season. So I think he moved up like 2 spots, but yeah, it's just a little bit more optimistic about HELSLEY's outlook moving forward.
All right. That makes sense in my books. I think all these guys feel very solid in their roles right now. We'll see how things look at the end of July, but for now, these guys are going to be getting you saves for the next month and a half. As these guys rise up the ranks, others need to fall to accommodate them. So let's discuss the closers falling on Rick's weekly closer ranks. We'll start with Jordan Romano, and this one's pretty self-explanatory. He's pretty much been removed from the closer role. It wasn't explicitly stated, but across the past week, Matt Strahm and Orion Kerkering have combined for 3 saves, especially in situations where Romano was available and could have been used and was used earlier in the game. I think there was an outing on Monday where Romano pitched the 7th, Strahm pitched the 8th, and Kerkering pitched the 9th. So there's a situation here where it looks like Romano's losing grasp of his role in Philadelphia.
It might be gone. It might just be completely gone at this point. Like tonight, was Christopher Sanchez threw 8 innings, and Kerkering came in the 9th for the save. I don't want to say confusing, but I know Romano has struggled a little bit the past couple of weeks, and Orion Kerkering was someone we were all keeping an eye on going into the season. Elite's a sweeper, but he hasn't pitched. I mean, he hasn't allowed a run since May 6th. But it's not like
Romano
he hasn't.
hasn't?
No, Kerkering, Orion Kerkering has not allowed a run since May 6th, but it hasn't been like dominant. It's just over that span, it's 18 innings, 1.19 WHIP, 4.59 Sierra, 6.8% K minus walk, 8.7% swing and strike rate, like just very below average number. I know it doesn't. It's hard to get excited about.
You said a 4 Sierra with a 0 ERA.
4.59 Sierra with and a 1.19 WHIP with no runs scored.
Lucky.
So yeah, I mean, he's been getting super lucky, and it's not like he's doing an impressive job of suppressing hard contact either. So he's been super lucky this year. But it's the stuff plus still grades out really well. So it's like the stuff's still there. I think it's just he's just not been able to get swing and miss this year on it. I don't know. I guess Kerkering's their best option because Matt Strahm's been really struggling lately. He's got a 6.52 ERA over his past 9.2 innings. So I guess Kerkering's the best option, but I don't think Romano's necessarily like the worst option. I don't know. I feel like Philly's going to add a closer. They're going to make some sort of move for something at the deadline. Whether it's like a veteran like a Kenley Jansen or if it's something more steady. I feel like they're going to figure out this closer situation at the deadline. So I'm not rushing to add Kerkering, but I do think Romano at this point in 12 team head-to-head standard leagues probably doesn't need to be rostered depending on what else is out there. Because this is now 3-4 save chances in a row he's been passed over. But if Strahm and Kerkering are sharing that role, the fact that they're sharing it I'm not too excited about rostering either one of them at this point. So
maybe if it was 2024 or 2023, Strom and Kerkering, because
right,
this
I mean,
is
that's
definitely
dominance,
not their
right?
best showing. But in years past, they
Yeah.
were just
Yeah.
super dominant, especially Strom. He's been so good the past couple of years. To see him struggling, I don't know. There's a part of me that wants to lean into getting Strom. I mean, they've split the save opportunities evenly over this week.
Right.
There's been 4 opportunities. Strom's gotten 2. Kerkering's gotten 2. Strom's better strikeout pitcher, better
Yeah.
track record of success as well. He is a lefty, which is rough, especially when they don't have Jose Alvarado there to take the pressure off of Strom needing to be used in, high leverage situations against other left-handed hitters. But there is a part of me that, knowing that Strom is going to be available in more leagues than Kerkering is,
Right.
wants to target him, especially because he's going to be cheaper when it comes to FAB this weekend. Not that Kerkering's going to be available in a lot of leagues, but I think Strom could be, and I think he may be worth rostering. You said he's struggled recently, ERA over 6 over the past couple of weeks, but I don't think that's anything against Strom's abilities. That's probably just, natural rise and fall of the season in terms of, luck and everything. He's still got a, really good xFIP 3.14.
Between the two, Strom and Kerkering, Strom's had by far the best swing and miss stuff this year. Between all three, between adding Romano in, Romano's had the best swing and miss stuff of Strom and Kerkering and himself. But if they're out on Romano, then I think I would pivot to Strom. But I mean, Kerkering got a save tonight, so I'm sure he's going to get added in a lot of leagues. He has been going on this stretch this past week against the Marlins, which, I mean, the Marlins offense is better than it's been in the past, but it's not exactly, I don't know. There's not a lot of scary hitters in that lineup. So we'll see how Kerkering fares in the next week or so. But yeah, I kind of with you, where I think Strom probably, if you're talking FAB, Strom should cost a little bit less, I would imagine.
Yeah. It's like the smarter fantasy move to make, in my opinion, because I don't think Kerkering's going to push the needle that much further than Strom will, at least over until the deadline.
Yeah, and I can't see. Yeah, if the Phillies are serious, they're going to make a move for a closer.
Yeah, and they've been pretty serious. I mean, they still got Dombrowski there, right?
Yeah, so he'll make a move for a legit reliever.
He will. All right. Our next faller is Emilio Pagan. It feels like he's on here every week, either rising or falling. And I don't blame you because he pitches well. He's the closer in Cincinnati, but then you go and you look at his underlying metrics and you go, oh no, when is it going to fall apart? Is it going to fall apart? I don't know. 3.23 ERA, 17 saves, and a 31% strikeout rate for Pagan this year. But there's just that dark feeling inside of you that's like, oh no, at any moment Pagan could just fall apart.
Yeah, it's partially that, and I wonder if that's starting to creep into like Terry Francona's. I don't know what happened this weekend though, but like they used Pagan in the 8th and Santillan in the 9th, and it ended up not being a save situation in the 9th. I think the Reds went up by 4 at that point or something. But interesting to see them flip roles, even if it wasn't a save situation. So, yeah, I don't. This is another team where I feel like they really could benefit from. I just don't know how many closers are going to be available, but the Reds could benefit from getting like an actual closer. Pagan's been great. He's been, more than they could ask for this year. But I feel like if they want to take that next step, they probably need to add a serious, closer at the deadline. So worried about that. Just the home. We talk about the home run issues all the time with Pagan. As the weather gets warmer, ball starts flying a little bit. Even though the balls are a little bit deader this year, there's still a little concern. So the only good thing is that I don't really trust Tony Santillan this year. He's not the same guy he was last year. I know he's been pitching. He's been pitching well for the most part, but I don't. To me, he's not much of a threat. I don't know how Terry Francona might see it a little bit differently, but that's just, I don't know. Pagan's more, I don't think he can get past that like 10 to 12 hump for me. I don't think he's ever going to be a top 10 option.
Yeah, it's confusing when you see that strikeout rate so high and the ERA so low, and he's got one of the best swinging strike rates of his career as well. But yeah, you look at that BABIP at 161, and it's really scary. But I don't know. It's just like there's so much explaining you can do with Pagan, but it's like ultimately he's middle of the pack, and you just have to be okay with that because at some point something's going to happen. He's got a high home run to fly ball rate this year already, which is something we're expecting. And then the low BABIP suggests like, okay, everything's going to fall apart, but he's a fly ball pitcher. You're expecting him to have a low BABIP. In his career, he's got a 250 BABIP against him, whereas league average is closer to 300. So it is something that he has the skills to produce. Not that low, though. It's like he's not going to hold that all year. His 0.84 whip is going to rise above 1.
He's done a lot. He's done a much better job this year of suppressing hard contact. I mean, his ICR is down almost 8 points from last year. 4 from 2 years ago. Is that luck, or is that like actually something that he's done to, like that's something we don't exactly know? Because the BABIP is ridiculously low, and it's that's not going to last forever. So there's definitely some negative regression, and like I think we might have talked about it last week. Like there's already some regression that's going to happen with Pagan. And he's already at like a 3.34 ERA. So like how much, like where does it go from here? Where does the ERA stop? So
totally.
Yeah.
All right. That's Emilio Pagan. And our last faller is Daniel Palencia, who maintains the closer role in Chicago. We did talk a little bit last week that maybe he's more of a high leverage guy. He did get the only 2 saves for the Cubs this past week, but I am reading also that Porter Hodge is working his way back as well. Is this a situation where you're looking at Palencia's sub 2 ERA and suggesting it's not going to be that rosy moving forward, or is it a competition thing?
Just a little bit, just the fact, like similar to Pagan, the fact that they were willing to go to Presley and in the 9th and Pagan in the 8th the other day. Palencia, yeah. Just that irks me a little. It just like worries me a little bit that they're willing to do that. They feel more comfortable with Presley now. If we need Presley for the 9th, that's fine. And plus Porter Hodge coming back is also something to keep in mind. I don't know what Hodge's role is going to be when he gets back, because he was struggling before he landed on the IL, and they've got, Palencia, Presley's pitching a lot better, and Brad Keller's been pitching well. So those 3 righties are going to be tough for Hodge to beat out. But I think Palencia being down isn't like go drop him, but like he's just not moving. I thought, I mean, if he was really the closer here, like he could jump into the top 10 or 12 pretty quickly. So I'm just kind of tapering expectations a little bit with him. And if there is a chance of there being a committee or even just sharing the role at any degree, it's gonna hurt Palencia's value.
All right, that makes sense. Well, that will wrap up our 3 up, 3 down section. To recap, our risers were Shelby Miller, Trevor McGill, and Ryan Helsley, and our fallers were Jordan Romano, Emilio Pagan, and Daniel Palencia. Next, we'll head into our main topic and discuss some forecasts for the trade deadline. But first, we're going to take another break here on In the Pen. And we're back. Jake Crumpler here with Rick Graham on In the Pen. We are heading into our main topic and discussing some very early, I wouldn't say very early, a little bit early trade deadline forecast. It's not our fault. The Red Sox and Giants should not have done that big blockbuster deal and got us itching for some more trades and thinking about what could possibly happen. I mean, that's one of my favorite things about baseball is just transactions. In other sports, I'm not as locked in as other sports, but like in basketball, it just seems like they've got so much crazy stuff happening in terms of transactions all the time. It's like numbed people. They become jaded to what's an actual crazy trade, where it's like the Luka trade happens. It's like, oh, NBA, but Rafael Devers trade happens and the whole baseball world is up and like nobody knows what to do. So it's it's really fun for me. I love transactions. One of my favorite parts about baseball because you can dive so deep into them. So we're going to do that. Just focus on relievers and discuss the, sellers this year who may be not selling, who may be buying, and which relievers may be traded as a result. So let's start with the definite sellers and kick things off with the White Sox because, everybody's going to be calling up them. Give me any of your relief pitchers.
They have nothing, though. That's the problem. I mean, Steven Wilson, Cam Boozer, maybe, but like there's not a lot of fantasy relevance here. So
no, and they don't have incentive to trade him either.
Yeah. I know Boozer's a free agent in 31. He's just old, so maybe they're like, all right, he's pitching fairly well too. I liked him when he was with the Red Sox. And he's left-handed, so it's kind of, they moved Tanner Banks, somewhat similar situation when they traded Tanner Banks a couple years ago. So I don't know, maybe Boozer's available, but not. Yeah, this bullpen doesn't have much that they're going to trade.
All right. Well, then let's move over to the A's, where they have a couple of names that could be interesting. I mean, there was a time where the A's maybe wouldn't have been considered sellers, but they have been so bad this month,
their
or I
bullpen's
guess
terrible.
last month. Yeah. So that makes sense. But really, their top option to be traded has really not pitched for them this year, Jose Leclerc.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know if they'd be able to move him, but he is a free agent after the end of the season, so he would have been interesting to a lot of teams. Now probably not. So they might just end up hanging on to him. Other than that, there's again, the Athletics don't have. I mean, TJ McFarland's a lefty that I'm sure a team will take a chance on, maybe. But that's about it.
Yeah, I could see that happening. He's not really overwhelming, sub 10% strikeout rate from McFarland, but he is a veteran. Yeah. He's a veteran lefty. Yeah, he's got experience. So it's certainly possible somebody picks him up as just like depth in case something happens. So I could see that. I could also see the A's designated him for assignment and then somebody just claiming him. That seems a lot more likely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the A's. They don't really have a lot of options. Now we'll go to Colorado, where maybe some teams might be even more interested. The thing is with Colorado, it's like you look at the names, you look at the numbers, you go, oh, that's terrible. But then you start thinking, oh, but we're taking them out of Colorado. We're putting them in a good pitching organization. Maybe they'll be the next Nick Mears or Jeff Hoffman or, whoever. But in Colorado, who are you thinking might be traded? Who are you thinking teams might be calling the Rockies about?
It's still a fairly young bullpen for the most part, but I mean, Tyler Kinley is a name that he's got a team option next year for $5 million, which isn't bad, and it's a team option, so you do what you want with it. And yeah, he's in the past 2 years, he's shown some flashes of being a really good reliever again. I would expect the team to be interested in kicking the tires on that, just to see what you can get from Kinley. Shouldn't cost a lot. And then, we talked about Jake Bird. I feel like, he's not a free agent until 2029, but he's going to be 30 years old soon, and he's having a career year. I almost guarantee you this is the highest value he's ever going to have as far as trade value goes. So the Rockies probably won't trade him, but I think Jake Bird should be available.
All right, well, let's move on from there. I don't think we'll have a lot of fantasy relevance coming out of the Rockies bullpen, though I'd love to see what Jake Bird can do outside of Coors with the amount of success he's had in it. So next we'll talk about the Pirates, and I think this is where things get really interesting because the top guys in their bullpen are all set to be free agents at the end of next year and are pretty interesting, are pretty intriguing for teams to go, wow, we're talking David Bednar and Dennis Santana are both set to be free agents at the end of next year. And guys like Caleb Ferguson and Ryan Barucki, a couple Southpaws, are set to be free agents at the end of this year. And both have had, decent amount of success this year. I mean, not so much Barucki, but he's displayed promise in the past.
Yeah, veteran lefty who, maybe he's another DFA guy who latches on somewhere. But the two big pieces are Bednar and Santana. And if a lot of these teams, and we saw it last year where relievers were they cost a lot at the deadline because there wasn't as much supply as there was demand, because there was if they added playoff teams that a lot of teams think they still have a chance in the wild card. So the Pirates are pretty much out. I don't think they have a chance to get into the playoffs at this point. Bednar is pitching really, his numbers, even for the season, even after the terrible start, his numbers look really good right now. Santana's numbers look great. He's pitching well. And they have
fans.
He's fighting fans.
More incentive to trade him.
Hopefully it's not a suspension coming. But if there's not a lot of sellers, these two guys might be the top relievers on the market, and the Pirates could do really well this offseason. Hopefully get some offense to go with the starting pitching staff that they have there, because they need bats. And Bednar and Santana might be one option or two options to get some quality bats in their system. So they have to. I know they've been holding on to David Bednar forever, and now he's finally turned a corner. Don't let it, because who knows, maybe at the second half of the year he falls apart again, and then you can't trade him now.
Nobody's gonna want him.
get him out now. His numbers look really good. He's pitching really well. A lot of teams will be in on him, especially if there's not a ton of closers available. I mean, he could get you probably a top. It's going to be a surprise. Like, people are going to be like, they gave up that for David Bednar, but
for 1.5 years of David Bednar.
Yeah. So I remember everyone was surprised what AJ Puck, AJ Puck got De Los Santos from Arizona, and people were like, oh, that's what they gave up De Los Santos for Puck. I'm like, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Puck's really, really good, and relievers are tough to get. And what's De Los Santos up to right now? So
I don't know. Struggling at AAA.
He's in AAA, striking out a lot. He's still very exciting. He's a very good bat. He's very exciting. But they should move Bednar and Santana. There's a lot of incentive for them to move on this year.
Yeah, Pirates could be big players at the trade deadline. They could really make or break the whole thing in terms of relief pitchers. Next, we'll discuss the Marlins, who they don't really have anybody that needs to be traded, but I don't see why they wouldn't be trying to trade as many guys as possible. There's something about Calvin Fauché being the closer there that just doesn't quite feel right, but I think they would be smart to capitalize on his success in that role and Anthony Bender's success so far this year. He's got a 2.45 ERA, and I don't think there's going to be a situation where Anthony Bender looks any more of a promising trade candidate.
Yeah, for Bender's success this year, it's coming with not a lot of swing and miss anymore, which obviously teams see that, so he's not going to get the type of return that we might think because of his ERA. But I will say with Bednar, maybe other teams, see something like, oh, maybe if we do this, we tweak this. He's got 2 years left on his deal after this year. Maybe they see something there. That Bender's really the only guy I could see the Marlins moving. Maybe Fauché, but he's not a free agent until 2030. So they could keep him around, but he is 30 years old, and I don't know. Maybe they want to capitalize on him being the closer right now. So.
All right. Well, sticking in the NL East, the Nationals are our last definite sellers here. And the real question is anybody going to be buying? Because we saw last year they were able to trade Hunter Harvey. That was it. They could not get anybody to bite on Kyle Finnegan. They've got veterans in Derek Law and Andrew Chafin, but Law hasn't pitched this year, and Chafin is currently on the IL. He's pitched well, but I think they'll definitely be trying to trade these guys. Whether or not they get anything is still to be seen. I don't know. There's no way a team's going to get fooled by Kyle Finnegan. He's worse. He's worse than he's ever been in the underlying metrics.
I mean, he's not
striking anybody out.
He's ever been in the underlying metrics.
He's never been. He's just always been.
No one wanted him last offseason. No one wanted him last trade deadline. No one wanted him this offseason. Will someone want him this trade deadline? I don't know.
There's no way.
Probably not, but he might. Maybe they just DFA Finnegan and let him go latch on somewhere else for free, or they could maybe they get a low level prospect this year for him. I don't know. He's an arm who throws 96. It's someone has.
I will lose my mind on the podcast.
I think what is it? Jeff Passan like 2 weeks ago said Finnegan's the most likely closer to be traded this deadline. So. We'll see.
Come on, Jeff. You got to get more tapped into relief pitchers.
Might not have been passing. That seems like John Heyman. That feels like a Heyman.
Okay, if Heyman said it, that makes a lot of sense. That sounds like something he'd say. Either way, I mean, sure, Finnegan is likely to be traded because he's a free agent. The Nationals have no reason to keep him, but nobody wanted him last year, and we were all under the impression, maybe the Nationals wanted to keep him. He still got one more year of control. They hit the offseason and DFA'd him immediately, and then just re-signed him back at the very last second.
No one else
they clearly don't want him either, and they're just like, oh well, you'll close for us and actually be good somehow. Maybe there's just something about him pitching for the Nationals that helps him find success.
He's going to turn into their Daniel Bard. They're going to give him an extension instead of trading him.
Extension.
I could see like a two-year extension of Kyle Finnegan instead of trading him, because no one
need to.
Nothing else. I know
they don't need to.
Well, their bullpen is in shambles.
I mean, they don't
without
need
him.
to because they don't have competition for his
Yeah,
services.
no, I know. Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, those are our definite sellers. Let's move over to our playoff hopefuls, which is we got a couple teams that are likely going to push for the playoffs, but they're currently 5 or more games out of a playoff spot. So within the next month, we should have an idea of whether or not these teams will be buyers or sellers. We'll start with the Orioles, who have plenty of names that could be on the trade block.
Yeah, this is the team where if they do like commit to being sellers, that opens up the reliever market a little bit more too, because you're talking about Gregory Soto, free agent to be, and he's been he's struggled a little bit tonight, but up until tonight he's been like really, really good lately. Lefty who throws hard. I mean, teams will be all over him. Sir Anthony Dominguez has been really good recently. Free agent to be. Andrew Kittredge has struggled this year, but if he gets healthy towards the deadline, he's got a team option for next year. So some options there. Even a guy like Keegan Aikens, a free agent in 2027, he could be available. And maybe Felix Bautista, free agent in 2028. Bautista could possibly be available, maybe. Because the Orioles, I mean, I don't know where they're headed. I don't know if they've plateaued, if they have another gear in them. It's an interesting team to dive further into. So I'm thinking more likely we see like the Soto, Dominguez, the free agents to be, the rentals get traded here. They probably keep Bautista, maybe even Aiken too. But Soto and Dominguez will be in high demand. That should get them a pretty good return.
Certainly. Yeah. Those are some great names. I think even there's a possibility that even if they're sort of on the fringe or on the fence of making the playoffs, that they still trade those guys, knowing that it's not those guys leaving is going to like destroy their playoff chances.
The other thing, and what's different with the other team in this tier, the Braves, but the Orioles are, I mean, the AL East is like, pretty loaded right now. There's 3 teams in the wild card from the AL East. The Yankees are at the top. The Orioles are at the bottom of the division, so it's going to take even more for them to kind of climb out of that hole. I mean, as well as they're playing right now, it's still a little bit of we're not late. I mean, we're halfway through the season next week, but we'll see if the Orioles starting pitching can keep this momentum going throughout the next month.
Yeah. All right. Well, the Braves are in a similar situation where they have been historically really good. Their team is set up to compete this year, but they just have not performed up to standards this year. Part of that is the bullpen's fault. I mean, a lot of it can be blamed on Raisel Iglesias, whose ERA is approaching 6. Only 8 saves on the season, but there's other names in that bullpen that could be interesting. Pierce Johnson has been pretty dope. Rafael Montero has already switched teams once this year, so wouldn't be surprising if he went again. And if they really wanted to go crazy, they could trade somebody like Aaron Bummer.
Yeah, I mean, like they have the guys in 27, or in free agents in 27, like Joe Jimenez, who hasn't pitched but could help down the stretch potentially, or Aaron Bummer. But I think this is a team. I think the Braves, at least if they sell any pieces, it's going to be rentals. And they're not selling Chris Sale. They've already come out and said Chris Sale is staying. So that kind of gives you a hint as to at least they're hoping to contend next year, which they should be. I mean, the Braves are having a bad season, but they're not. The pieces are still there for them to compete in the near future. But yeah, Iglesias is the one who it's tough that he's having a bad year, because maybe if he was having a good year and the team wasn't playing well, at least you can get a pretty good return for him at the deadline. You still might be able to. He's pitched better lately. I'm not totally out on Iglesias this year. And Pierce Johnson, though, maybe they just move on from Pierce Johnson and call it a day. And he could get them again the reliever market from last year if it's similar this year, which it's shaping up to be. Probably get a pretty good return for Pierce Johnson.
I feel like Iglesias is the type of guy to get traded to
a team and then come back. Oh
yeah. And just like a team that just wants a veteran closer. Yeah, I mean, Diamondbacks, I was thinking the Rangers.
A lot of teams
also.
in the end. Yeah, I mean,
they're sort of a little far out. I don't know why they would be buying at this point. So yeah, it's I could see him getting traded either way, but definitely will be heavily determined on the Braves record in the next month. Let's move into our next section, and these are teams that are within 3 games of a wild card spot, but they're sort of on the fringe. Are they going to be buyers? Are they going to be sellers? The next month will be a huge determining factor in that for these teams. And as I mentioned, Texas Rangers, they are not at their best right now. They're under 500, but they are close enough to a wild card spot somehow. They've got plenty of names that could be traded if they want to. I think I would be surprised if a lot of these guys didn't get traded. I don't feel super strong about the Rangers playoff chances.
Yeah, I mean I think the AL West isn't as scary as some of these other divisions for them to make up some room. Especially if they can get healthy for like a for a run here. I wouldn't rule the Rangers out. But yeah, they have a lot of pieces to their bullpen that if they do become sellers, Hobie Milner, Luke Jackson, Sean Armstrong will have some interest, and obviously Chris Martin would be a great addition. But yeah, they're either be buyers, or they're gonna buy a couple bullpen pieces, or they're gonna sell a couple bullpen pieces. They're gonna go one way or the other, and could dictate some of the market this year.
Definitely. All right, next we've got the Royals, who have a couple of options like Carlos Estevez, who's got a team option for 2027. It feels like he's probably not going anywhere, especially because he's currently leading the American League in saves, and the Royals are doing their best to stay in playoff competition. They got a better record than the Rangers right now, but they are 10.5 games back from the Tigers. Nonetheless, I think Estevez probably stays for at least another year. I mean, they've got him under regular contract for the next year as well.
Next year, yeah.
Or the team option.
They signed him for to at least be there for 2 years. So I don't think they trade him. Maybe you could sell high on him though too. That's the only reason why. If the return is nice, maybe he's available. Hunter Harvey, if he was healthy, would be another nice trade asset for them. But he hasn't pitched much this year, so I don't see him being traded.
So not much happening in this Royals bullpen. They're probably just going to be buyers.
Yeah. I mean, they're close enough to, and the AL Central's pretty wide open, so might as well make a run.
All right, next we have the Angels, and I mean, I've convinced myself the Angels aren't going to make the playoffs as long as Mike Trout is on their team. Like it's not going to happen. Like you can convince yourself all you want, and then it's like Kyron Paris forgets how to play. Joe Adele forgets how to swing the bat. I mean, and then one starting pitcher gets injured and their whole season's ruined is basically how it goes for the Angels. I'm not going to get tricked right now as things stand, but I would definitely be rooting for the Angels if they did make the playoffs. However, knowing that they probably aren't, Kenley Jansen is probably going to get traded only if he's going to be guaranteed a closer role, I would assume.
Yeah, I saw there's an interesting stat I saw today about his numbers this year when he in save situations versus non-save situations, and it's what you would expect for Kenley Jansen. It's all of his bad outings have been in non-save situations. He's been really good in save situations. So, and all the teams that are within 3 games of the wild card spot, it does feel like the Angels are the one team that's like, all right, they're probably not going to be hanging around a month from now. So yeah, I mean, Jansen should have a lot of interest from teams that need a closer. Yeah, I think trying to put him into like a setup role is not going to work. So yeah, I mean, there's a ton of I don't even know what teams to speculate on for him. A lot of teams could use him if he's available. As poor as he's been this year, he's still worth a shot at the deadline if you're a contender. And like Robert Stevenson has a team option for 2027 that, according to Fangraphs, is $2.5 million, which seems not right. But I don't know. $2.5 million team option doesn't seem right.
I think that was by design because he was all injured, or maybe there was something like they
could have been a clause.
Because he missed time with the elbow. Yeah, you're probably onto something.
So I mean, that's I think even for the Angels, they should just hold on to him for the next 2 years. I wonder, Reed Detmers, maybe you sell high on how well he's been pitching out of the bullpen. That seems like a dumb decision, kind of, but
because is it selling high if it's like, oh, he's a good reliever, but he's not a starter?
Exactly. It's selling yeah, more middle than I
Yeah.
guess than high, because
Better than he's been in the past, I guess.
there's some value, yeah, but I still like to see Reed Detmers return to the rotation at some point.
Okay, next we've got the Twins, who are just one game back of the wild card. I would be surprised if they were sellers, but they've got guys like Danny Coulomb and Justin Topa who could be dealt this season, because Coulomb's set to be a free agent at the end of the year, and Topa has a team option for $2 million for next year. What do you think? Do you think Twins are going to be buy? I don't even think they would buy in the bullpen. Their bullpen is set.
They're probably going to do what they did this offseason and not do anything and just kind of float the same team out there and hope to make one of the wild card spots. Maybe win the division. Who knows? It's, again, Detroit is kind of running away with it, but I don't know if that's all it takes is, like, if they lost Tarek Swooball to an injury. I mean, all of a sudden Detroit kind of falls down into the middle of that AL Central pack. So yeah, I think the Twins don't make any moves. It'll be interesting in a couple of years. Maybe even we start seeing this offseason. The Twins probably could use some bats, some offense. Maybe one of Duran or Jax gets moved for a bat or something. But yeah, for now, I think they just keep the bullpen intact.
All right. Next, we've got the Seattle Mariners, who I also expect to be buyers more than sellers. They don't have a lot of guys to sell anyway. Andres Munoz is definitely somebody that's going to stick around for a long time for the cost-conscious Mariners, and guys like Gabe Spear and Matt Brash aren't free agents for a couple more years. And despite the success they're having right now, with the Mariners this close to his playoff spot and having only one playoff appearance in the last 25 years, I think they're going to push as hard as they can for the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think, again, AL West is a little bit more open for up for grabs. But those three, Munoz, Spear, and Brash, if they were to just sell high on some of these guys, or they would get really good returns at the deadline. So, but yeah, ultimately I expect the Mariners to be more buyers than sellers.
Yeah. Next, we've got the Diamondbacks, who are sort of one of the last teams in the National League still in the conversation for the wild card. I mean, the Braves were sort of the turning point there, but Diamondbacks are still sort of in it, 2.5 games back, but they're at 500 and they're 2.5 games back. So it's going to be pretty difficult. You're going to have to be a really good team to make the playoffs in the National League. And the Diamondbacks, while they have guys like Shelby Miller and Jalen Beeks ready to be traded, it does feel like they're probably going to push to bring somebody else in. But this next month could really be huge for the D-backs, especially without Justin Martinez, seeing how that bullpen reacts.
Right. It's going to come down to they're kind of with the Angels, where it's like, of the teams in this tier, the Diamondbacks and Angels feel the most likely to be sellers at the deadline. So yeah, just losing, your best starter and your two best relievers to Tommy John within a couple weeks span.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Just not a good sign. It's hard to come back from. So yeah, Shelby Miller and Jordan Beeks might be two of the best relievers, or Jalen Beeks. I don't know. Beeks has kind of fallen off a little bit. So maybe Shelby Miller is one of the best relievers available at the deadline, which would be a shocking thing to say this offseason. But here we are. And yeah, that's kind of all. Kevin Ginkel, he's a free agent in 2027, but
so bad.
Why are you selling low? Why are you selling low on him? Maybe Ryan Thompson, but I don't think he gets you a huge return. But he could definitely help out some teams. Ryan Thompson.
All right, we'll go over to the Reds now, where we discussed a little bit. Emilio Pagan is set to be a free agent at the end of this year, and so is Taylor Rogers. Scott Barlow could also be on the trade block. They got plenty of names there, but the Reds have not been a team that has been competitive in a while, and they're currently only a game back from the wild card. So unless we see a dramatic downturn in their performance, I would assume they'd be adding to this bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, the Reds should be. I think they're at the point where they have to start acting as buyers with their core. So Pagan would be a very interesting, person on the market, but I don't know if teams would look at him as a closer or more of a setup middle relief option. And then they have, veterans like Taylor Rogers, Scott Barlow, who have been closers in the past. They're free agents at the end of the year. Barlow has a team option that's fairly cheap for next year. So they have those three pieces that could be, nice for other teams. But I would like the Reds to see. I would like to see the Reds go out and get. I don't know who it's going to be, but go out and get some type of closer or at least like an elite setup type man to help out that bullpen.
Iglesias, bring him back.
That would be fun. Sure. If the Red Sox also fall out of it, Chapman, Iglesias back in Cincinnati where they began. It could be fun.
Wow. That would be fun. Yeah, make them starters again.
No, but yeah.
They both came up as starters. I can't believe they had Chapman as a starter. That's crazy. I got to go back and watch some Chapman highlights from the Reds.
Yeah.
Before everybody hated him. All right. Our last team in this section is the St. Louis Cardinals. They are currently in line to make the wild card, but there's like 5-6 teams right now that are suggested by MLB's standings that they are in the playoffs, but that's not the case. The Cardinals, I think, are a half game back from being in that wild card. They do have a couple of very notable names in Ryan Helsley and Phil Maton, who, while Maton has had a ton of success this year, Helsley has been very locked down in the past couple of years. So those guys are going to be, I think, definitely getting calls by other teams to the Cardinals, but it's really up to them what they want to do here. I mean, they're close enough right now that they should be pushing.
Yeah, they're in a tough situation because it's a team that, they're so close to a playoff run, and the NL Central is more open than other divisions. But you could probably get, even with Helsley having a down year, you could probably get a really good return just based off the lack of relievers apparently possibly available here. So it's hard to say no to a Helsley trade unless you really believe in this team. And the rotation, I don't know if the rotation and the lineup has holes. But if you're the Cardinals right now, if you're a month from now, only 2.5 games out, I think you got to play it out and see what happens.
Totally agree. All right. Our last group of teams are teams that are expected to be buyers unless things go horribly wrong over the next month, watching them fall down the standings. We'll start with the Red Sox, who've got guys who can be traded, southpaws like Aroldis Chapman and Justin Wilson, as well as guys with really nice contracts like Garrett Whitlock. I would not expect the Red Sox to do this, but hey, I didn't expect the Red Sox to trade Rafael Devers over the weekend.
Yeah, and they still claim that they're, going to be buyers at the deadline, that the Devers trade didn't change anything. It does change things because their lineup's definitely weaker. So I don't know how many games they're going to win over the next month, but Chapman would get a fun return for the Red Sox. Remember when Aroldis Chapman got Cole Reagans for the Royals? That would be
really
cool.
God, wow, forgot about that.
I'm pretty sure that was the
you're right.
Reagans, right? Yeah. I feel like Chapman would be, and even Justin Wilson, he's been sneaky good. And again, veteran lefty, he would definitely have some interest out there. But I still think the Red Sox do have they have some guys coming back in the rotation, some hitter. I mean, Bregman will be back eventually. I think the offense will be okay even without Devers. So I don't see them being sellers unless this next month goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, I mean, trading Chapman is smart because not only did he return Reagans, but when he was traded to the Cubs, he returned the Yankees' Gleyber Torres. So he's always been somebody. He gets you some good players on your team. So I think the Red Sox would be smart to trade him. But if they're trying to win the World Series, then probably hold on to him because he's pretty good. Except, he's not great in the playoffs. I haven't seen him be good in the playoffs except for that 1 year with the Cubs. And even still, it's like his highlight from that World Series was giving up a home run to Rajai Davis.
I know. Yeah, that's the one. He didn't get the last out there. I mean, it was
Mike Montgomery.
Yeah,
that's right. That's crazy that everybody just knows that. Everybody remembers. You'll remember Mike Montgomery forever, and Chris Bryant throwing over to Anthony Rizzo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow, that's crazy.
So I would be fine with the Red Sox trading Chapman just because the return would be worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. See. Next, we've got the Guardians, who are not expected to be sellers. They're probably going to be buyers. They're half a game back from the wild card, and they don't really have a lot of guys to trade. I wouldn't be just so flabbergasted to see Emmanuel Clase get traded. But
Yeah.
somebody like Paul Sewald, maybe he's currently on the IL and he's got a mutual option for next year. That's going to get declined. So he's basically a free agent at the end of this year.
Yeah. And he hasn't pitched much, so I don't think there's any value there. I do think a Class A trade is something I think we'll hear more about maybe in the off season.
Yeah, with
They've
Cade
already,
Smith.
yeah. I mean, they got Cade Smith there, Hunter Gaddis. They've talked about. There's been some rumors about Class A in the not too distant past about him being available. So, he's got two $10 million options starting in 2027, 2028 club options, which isn't a bad. I mean, that's not a bad deal for Class A at all. But for Cleveland, I mean, maybe that's maybe they want to get out of that sell high.
They signed that extension, right?
Yeah, they gave him that a couple of years ago. Yeah, so I could see the Guardians shopping him this offseason, but probably not now.
Yeah. All right. Next, we've got the Brewers and Trevor McGill, who's not a free agent for a couple of years. Same with Nick Mears, but both of those guys are really good. If the Brewers are to falter over the next month, McGill could be one of the top names available because the Brewers know, hey, we've got Abner Uribe here. We can get rid of Trevor McGill and still feel good about our bullpen.
Yeah, there's a Uribe there, and even I mean, McGill and Mears being free agents in 2028, they could hypothetically sell high on them, but this being the Brewers, they'll probably wait until a year from now or 2 years and before they move those guys. But Uribe does look like the closer of the future, but it's probably going to have to wait a year or two.
All right. And our last team is the Padres. They are just outside of the wild card right now, but they're playing pretty well this year, 39-34 record. And they've got a bunch of really good relievers, especially most notably the league leader in saves, Robert Suarez. He's got 21. As you mentioned in our notes, he's not a free agent until 28, but he can opt out after this year. And with the success he's had over the past couple of years, it'd be really surprising if he didn't opt out. So we should be looking at Robert Suarez as a free agent to be. But the Padres, in the situation that they're in, I wouldn't say it'd be foolish to trade him, but like their bullpen is so good. Imagine them getting into the playoffs is going to be hard to do, but you're right. They have enough support there to like get rid of a guy like that and still be awesome.
That's the only way I think they move Suarez at this point is if it's getting back like an MLB ready, an MLB return, like a player that's going to help them on the roster right now. So
starter probably.
Yeah, it's probably a starter, maybe an outfielder. But it wouldn't that could be a trade that goes down instead of looking for these rentals to get traded for prospects. Maybe it's like a Suarez moving somewhere for an outfielder or a starting pitcher, and then you can just slide Adam into the closer role, move Estrada up, Morejon up, and their bullpen.
They're like the only team that's positioned perfectly for something like that.
So that I could see that, but I don't think they would trade Suarez for prospects at this point. But they've been talking about, there's been rumors about him being traded for in the last 6 months. So
longer than that. I feel like the last couple of years.
Yeah. So we might actually finally see it this year. But I don't know. He's been pitching so well for San Diego. I don't know if they're ready to move on from him yet.
I agree. And they're so close to the playoffs right now that it's probably smart for them to hold on to him and just take that elite bullpen in the playoffs and see what you can do. I mean, we need somebody to be tooled up to take down the Dodgers in the playoffs. I cannot have them breaking this streak of parity in MLB with back-to-back World Series championships. I mean, any team would suck, but the Dodgers especially is.
I do like the Giants with Devers now. I think the lineup now finally has a little bit of power, a little bit of thunder in it. Rotation should be fine. Bullpen's already great. So yeah, we'll see. Not the Dodgers caliber team roster, but they can contend with them at least.
Yeah. Well, any team we didn't name is probably going to be a buyer or won't do anything when it comes to trades in the bullpen at the deadline. But that'll do it for this episode of In the Pen. Rick, why don't you go ahead and plug your social media and anything else you're working on?
Yeah. First, while we were during this podcast, there was a situation in Tampa where Hunter Biggie, who's rehabbing right now, he was on the bench and got struck by a line drive and had to be carted off. I hope he's okay.
Gosh.
I know we've been big Hunter Biggie fans here. It's a good bit of a scary situation, but
Yeah, that sucks.
hopefully he's okay. Hopefully we see him back this year. But yeah, weird, scary situation there for Hunter Biggie. But yeah, you can find me on socials at I am Rick Graham. So yeah, as far as what's coming out for me, it's the closing time on Tuesdays, hold up on Thursdays, and save plus holds on Fridays. That's pretty much all I got going on right now.
All right. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler. You can follow the pod at In the Pen Pod. You can find all of my work at crumplerbaseball.com. You can catch me on the First Pitch podcast Monday through Thursday. And you can catch me over at Baseball HQ as well, doing playing time analysis for the Diamondbacks, Giants, and A's. But that'll do it for this episode 125 of the In the Pen podcast. We'll talk to you all next week.